You'd never guess that back in 1977, a high fashion magazine would use Star Wars characters in the weirdest of ways. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel, and if vintage toys and their history interest you, you are in the right place. So hit that subscribe button for more videos, even if today we're talking about magazines. So, did you know that Star Wars characters appeared in Vogue magazine back in November of 1977 to sell fashionable furs? Yep, I guess you can say it was strong with the furs. Alright, that's a bad joke. Anyways, Vogue has always had its finger on the pulse of what's stylish and chic. And back in 1977, that meant model Jerry Hall, who would go on to marry the lead singer from the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, in 1980. Yes, that Jerry Hall. She would pose for Vogue and Star Wars characters to sell high-end fur coats. And Star Wars was also in full fashion. It was the movie that blockbusted the entire universe in May of 1977 and was breaking box office records left and right. Oh, and fun fact, on the cover of that very Vogue issue, a then unknown model named Renee Russo. Before she became a Hollywood star, she would later go on to be in one of my favorite movies, Major League, starring Charlie Sheen. Yes, Vogue, the fashion Bible, featured characters from the galaxy far, far away. Stormtroopers, a Jawa, C-3PO, and even Darth Vader. And honestly, who's more fashionable than Darth Vader? They say black never goes out of style, right? But the characters weren't the heroes here. They were accessories to a photo shoot. Jerry Hall posed in glamorous coats and jewelry, while our favorite sci-fi icons played backup. Your lack of fashion sense is very disturbing. And we've got to ask, whose idea was this, and who ran this by George Lucas? Well, Charlie Lippincott was the marketing mastermind behind Lucasfilm and responsible for getting Star Wars marketed to the world. And in 1977, they were trying all avenues, from hosting panels at the very unknown San Diego Comic-Con back before Star Wars even hit theaters, and it was Mr. Lippincott who got the Topps cards into production and hitting the store shelves only a month after the movie hit theaters. And since the toys wouldn't hit shelves until the spring of 1978, there was also a key demographic that was missing: women. So that's where Charlie Lippincott and Lucasfilm was also approaching magazines and other media that women favored. And Vogue was one of the top-tier fashion magazines in the world at that time, ran by then editor-in-chief Grace Mirabella. But can you picture someone with as much fashion sense as Grace Mirabella approving something this nerdy? Or a photographer yelling across the set, "C-3PO, look happier?" Well, yes, Star Wars was that popular all around the world. It was a cultural phenomenon, and even a mention of Star Wars would sell magazines. But you gotta give Vogue this. At least they got the snaggletooth right in featuring how tall, or in this case, how short he really was, which would later be a mistake that Kenner would make when the first toy of the snaggletooth would be blue and tall. This would later be corrected by Kenner to be short and red. I guess the designers over at Kenner did not read Vogue. And then there's the Jawa. Imagine trying to look sultry for Vogue while a smelly Jawa is snatching bracelets off your wrist. Jawas would rather just sell the furs for ship parts. And I know why they left Chewie out of this. Can you imagine them trying to add poor Chewie to one of these shoots? Chewie just watching in horror as these models carried on wearing what could have been one of his relatives. Oh, poor Lumpy. These days, promoting the wearing of fur has definitely gone out of fashion, with most societies looking down on it as a way of staying warm. But this was in the late 70s, and the term eco-friendly was still decades away from being a cultural norm, in the United States at least. Star Wars nowadays has a great relationship with the fashion world, and after the beautiful costumes designed by Trisha Biggar for all 3 Star Wars prequel movies, one can say that Star Wars and costume designers from the movies have had a big influence on how designers look at the future of fashion. So if you spot the Vogue 1977 magazine out in a local antique store, or see someone selling it online, and I found someone selling it for about $40 on eBay, now you know what's inside and can snatch it up. One of the most bizarre or brilliant collabs with a fashion magazine to sell clothing and getting people to see Star Wars. Whether you call it bizarre or brilliant, this mashup gave us one of the most unlikely crossovers in fashion history. Truly, only in a galaxy far, far away. If you found this video interesting, please give it a like. And to watch more videos about vintage Star Wars, vintage collecting, and a lot more, hit the videos on your screen now. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time.